Hello everyone, welcome to this session of class 9 mathematics, and today we are going to see some more problems in Euclid's geometry. We are in the exercise 5.1 and we are going to complete exercise 5.1 and there's another exercise 5.2.2. So we'll start with the last problem in the exercise 5.1. So what is the seventh sum? Why is axiom 5 in the list of Euclid's axioms considered a universal truth? Okay, they have given you a clause that it is not about fifth postulate. So there are two things which Euclid has given. They are axioms and postulates. We know that axioms are facts which are taken as such. So they are called universal truths because they don't need any proof. Without proof, they are taken as such. They are facts and they are taken as such. Whereas postulates or theorems, they need proof. They have proof. We can prove them. We can prove the statements, and through reasoning, deductive reasoning, we are able to prove the theorems. So those are called postulates, and we have axioms. And in axiom, particularly axiom 5, generally axioms are universal truths. Okay, so in axiom 5, the whole is always greater than the part. Why do the axiom called a universal truth? So you need to say why it is a universal truth. We know whole is greater than the part. It is understood. So but how do we explain it? So we take some, for example, I take an apple. See, an apple or an orange or a cake or pizza, something which is a whole. See, if I need to divide it among 2 or 3, what do? I equally divide it, see, into 3 or into 4. I take a part, I take half of the apple, I take 1/3 of the orange, or I take 1/4 of the pizza or cake, whatever it is. So see what is the part here. See, if I take out the part, okay, if I take out the part here and if I take out this part from the apple, okay, so it is obvious that the part is less than the whole which was originally there. It is less than the whole. So it is understood, it is natural, and we'll be able to understand the whole is always greater than the part. It doesn't need any proof. We are able to see that a part is always less than the whole, or whole is always greater than the part. Okay, so that is what we understood by the axiom, and that is why it is called a universal truth. Okay, so this is about the last problem in exercise 5.1. In the next exercise 5.2, we have the first question. So in the next thing, see, they have given you not the fifth postulate in the last sum of 5.1 exercise. So we have a set of postulates too, and we have a reasoning for those things. So the next exercise deals with one such kind of postulate, and the fifth postulate in Euclid's list of fifth postulates. We have fifth postulate, which is very, very important. We have many other versions for that fifth postulate. Many other scientists have given various versions for the fifth postulate, and let's see what's it all about. How would you rewrite Euclid's fifth postulate so that it would be easier to understand? So what is the question? So do we need to rewrite Euclid's fifth postulate? Why is it so? Why they have given so that it would be easy for us to understand? Because it's a lengthy postulate and sometimes it is confusing. When you read out the postulate, you might feel a bit confusing. But when you read it line by line, and when we draw a figure accordingly, or when we illustrate it, we'll be able to understand what Euclid has to say in the fifth postulate. So the fifth postulate states, if a straight line falling on two straight lines, we'll do sentence by sentence, so it will be easy for you to understand, and then we'll start rewriting this postulate. Okay, if a straight line falling on two straight lines. Now let's see. See, I have two straight lines. So any two straight lines and a line falling on it. So this is a line falling on it. Okay. So we have two lines and a line falling on it. Let us name the lines as L and M and the falling line to be P for us to understand it better. Okay. So if a straight line falling on two straight lines, makes the interior angles. So what do we mean by interior angles? The next thing is we need to define what are interior angles. See, there are two lines and a line falling on it. So when a line falls on it or when a line intersects the two lines, angles are formed, isn't it? So what are the angles? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. We have totally 8 angles formed by the falling line on the two straight lines. Okay, so this we have done already in actually we have done it in the previous classes, isn't it? So lines, two parallel lines and a transversal, you would have studied it. So now, these angles formed by the falling line on the two straight lines. See, we have 4 angles here and 4 angles here. So now what do we mean by interior angles? Interior angles are the angles in the interior region of these two lines. These two lines and these two lines, within these two lines, these 4 angles, 3, 4, 5 and 6 are interior angles. So for you to understand, let me erase the exterior angles. So these are the exterior angles because they are exterior to the lines. So for this, according to this fifth postulate, exterior angles are not of much importance to us. So we'll see the interior angles. So 3, 4, 5, 6 are the interior angles. Now we'll come to the postulate. Makes the interior angles on the same side of it. Of it means of the falling line. So on the makes the interior angles on the same side of it taken together. So let us consider either right side or left side. Okay, so let us consider the right side. So for example, let me consider the right hand side. So the same side of the falling line, I have two interior angles, that is angle 3 and angle 5 are on the same side of the falling line and taken together. What do you mean by taken together? They are added. Okay, angle 3 and angle 5 are added. Less than 2 right angles. Taken together, less than 2 right angles. What do you mean by 2 right angles? 90 plus 90, that is 180, and this is less than 180. So that is what the statement says. See, if a straight line falling on 2 straight lines makes the interior angles on the same side of it taken together less than 2 right angles. Taken together less than 2 right angles. Then the two straight lines, see, then the two straight lines, if produced indefinitely, if they were produced indefinitely, see, they were produced indefinitely, what happens? Meet on that side on which the sum of the angles is less than 2 right angles. Now do you understand? Meet on this side where we have taken the angles whose sum to be less than 180 degrees. So the sum is less than 180 degrees. Therefore, when they are produced, these two straight lines, when they are produced, they meet somewhere. Produced endlessly, that is indefinitely, they meet somewhere because the angle, the sum of angle of the interior angles is less than 180 degrees. Okay, so this is what the fifth postulate states. But let us consider when it is not equal to 180 degrees. When it is not less than 180 degrees. There it has been given, it is less than 180 degrees, it converges and meets somewhere, isn't it? If it is produced indefinitely, if it is less than 180 degree, it meets at some point. Now take this side. If it is not equal to, on the same side, you need to find the sum of the interior angles on the same side. Let us take left side. So when we take left side, let us take 4 plus 6 is greater than 180 degree. Okay. When it is less than 180 degree, it meets somewhere. And here, when it is greater than 180 degree, if it is produced endlessly, it goes somewhere even then it doesn't meet. But what happens is the gap widens as it goes endlessly, the gap widens. See, here it is short, and when it goes endlessly, the gap widens because it is greater than 180 degrees. So greater than 180 degree means one is obtuse, one will be obtuse even though one is acute or something like that. So it will go endlessly, it won't meet anywhere, and the gap will widen. Okay, so the next case is, what we do is, for rewriting the fifth postulate, we consider the interior angles, the sum of interior angles. See, take two straight lines, and the following line we take this side angle 1 and 2. Let us take this to be 1 plus 2 is equal to 180 degrees. So they are exactly equal to 180 degrees. If it is equal to 180 degrees, then what happens is the two lines, even though when produced indefinitely, it goes on maintaining a constant difference between, constant distance between the two lines, so that we say these two lines are parallel to each other. Okay, so that is what we know, we come to know from the fifth postulate. He states that if the interior angles, the sum of interior angles taken on the same side, if it is less than 180 degree, it meets somewhere when produced indefinitely. The two straight lines meet somewhere. But if it is equal to 180 degrees, then they don't meet each other. See, they don't meet each other even though produced indefinitely. They won't meet each other. Never. They will never meet each other, and they will have a constant distance. If they have a constant distance between them throughout their path, then they are called parallel lines. Do you understand? So parallel lines have a falling line on them, and the sum of the interior angles is 180 degree, equal to 180 degree. So that is how we rewrite, and this fifth postulate is about parallel lines. We know what are parallel lines from the fifth postulate, and that is what the next question shows. Does Euclid's fifth postulate imply the existence of parallel lines? Explain. So yes, it is. It implies the existence of parallel lines. That is what the fifth postulate states. And if 1 plus 2 is equal to 180 degrees, okay, 180 degrees, and if they maintain a constant distance throughout their path, then we say those two lines are parallel lines. The other way we can explain the parallel lines is, we can also say there is a line L here. See, there's a line L here, and there is a point A which is not on the line L. So it is not on the line L, it is somewhere else. So what can be done is, there can be only one line. See, if at all I draw lines like this through A, okay, there are many lines. So we know infinitely many number of lines can be drawn through a point, isn't it? So we can draw as many lines as possible. So for you to understand more clear, I have just drawn 3 lines. See, in these 3 lines, only one line can be parallel to the line L. All the other lines, if produced indefinitely, see, they meet somewhere with the line. Sorry, so they meet somewhere the line L. So if they meet, then they are not parallel. If they have any other common point, okay, between them, they don't, they are not called parallel lines, they are intersecting lines. Okay, so we define parallel line as that if there is a line L and there is a point A which is not on L, then we say there can be only one and only line which passes through A, that is parallel to the line L, and it maintains a constant distance, perpendicular distance. See, this is a perpendicular distance to the line L, and it maintains a constant perpendicular distance throughout its path. Even though produced indefinitely, it maintains constant perpendicular distance throughout the path between L and the line through A. So these lines are called parallel lines. Okay, so that is what Euclid's fifth postulate implies, existence of parallel lines. And this fifth postulate has many other versions, and one of the version is Playfair axiom. And Playfair axiom also states that if there is a line and a point not on the line, then there exists only only one line which is parallel to the line L. Okay, so by this way we understand some of the concepts. We have just studied some of the concepts, basic concepts of geometry, like we started from point, then to line, then to planes, surfaces, two-dimensional. Okay, so these are generally called plane geometry, which is Euclid geometry. And Euclid, a great mathematician, Alexandrian. He was a great mathematician and he is considered to be the father of geometry. Whatever we study today, the plane geometry, is because of Euclid's reasoning. He started reasoning and he started proving the results which were done by his forefathers, and so that we are able to understand more clearly the concepts of plane geometry. Okay, so keep revising the axioms and postulates. See the difference between the axioms and postulates, and revise thoroughly, so that you'll be able to understand any type of questions like this, which depends on the axioms, which has reasons behind them, as axioms and postulates given by Euclid. So this is what we have seen in the Euclid's geometry chapter. So in the next chapter we'll be moving ahead with some other topic again related to the geometry maybe, and until then it's bye from Anu. Keep practicing. Thank you.